Thank you everyone that tuned in to the live 8-hour coverage yesterday covering this major tornado outbreak. I could not believe all the tornado warnings happening at the exact same time and the numerous tornadoes that unfolded across the afternoon into the evening and really lasted all the way into the wee hours of the morning. And waking up this morning looking at the widespread damage and destruction and some loss of lives was really heartbreaking. And yeah, it's hard to process what exactly unfolded yesterday. In fact, the Storm Prediction Center did upgrade this to a higher risk into the afternoon. It was the first time they did that since March the 25th, 2021. And unfortunately, it did verify, but it gave you plenty advance warning. And where the actual intense storms folded was right within these zones of where the Storm Prediction Center highlighted the most favored area. So in fact, very preliminary reports, up to 65 tornadoes were reported, 289 hail reports, 89 wind gusts, 296 wind damage reports, 25 significant hail reports, as well as 6 significant wind reports. And these are very preliminary. These numbers unfortunately will be going up. The National Weather Service has a long list of surveys they have to do over the next week or two. And man, it's going to be really active going forward. In fact, they even upgraded portions of the East Coast to an enhanced risk today. There's a squall line that's coming in through this afternoon that's really going to be packing a punch again with that northern mode, getting some intense winds into that 60 to 70 mile per hour range. And some of those could be some larger hail producers, quarter, even maybe some ping pong size hail can't be ruled out. And some of these areas, especially coming across, originating, starting in portions of the Cleveland area, pretty much the entire state of Pennsylvania gets hit with these storms, as well as portions of all of New Jersey here, even into the New York City area, and extending as far east as the Rhode Island area could be impacted from these storms as far south as in the DC into the Delaware area. That's today into the early evening time frame. And there's also that southern mode as well. That also keeps extending off into the east. And now they've upgraded this to a slight risk for severe storms, for some of those damaging winds and some of those larger hail could be unfolding within this region and portions of South Carolina, as well as southeastern Georgia here. As we get deeper into the afternoon, into the early evening time frame, definitely ought to be on high alert for some stronger storms. Here's what the radar looked like when I was putting this update together. There's a squall line I'm kind of concerned about. So there's that first squall line that came through across the East Coast here. That's going to be pushing off, but it's not that. It's really not this one. It's the second one that's forming right now towards Cleveland. That's the one that's going to be moving across into the afternoon, into the early evening time frame. That's going to be the one that's packing some of those higher winds and some of those larger hailstones. So definitely be on high alert between now and I'd probably say 8, 9, 10 o'clock time frame into the evening time. So going into tomorrow, things get further interesting into the deep south. So here's the rain that's going to be unfolded over the next 48 hours. So we have that southern mode that comes across, and here's the instability that comes across Pennsylvania and upstate New York and along the East Coast here into portions of Connecticut, into Rhode Island, back into New York City. Those areas further south into New Jersey, picking up some rain, lighter amounts as you extend into portions of West Virginia, as well as into the Virginia region. But there's also going to be another mode. There's a warm front that's going to be pushing further north, going into portions of North Texas tomorrow. That is going to be able to destabilize the atmosphere during peak heating of the afternoon. And there's going to be a boundary that forms on the eastern mode. And where that boundary falls, we could be looking at some very impressive rain amounts trailing along this northern fringe, right along that warm front into portions of northern Louisiana, southern Arkansas, and as portions of Mississippi. But it's really within the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I'm a little bit concerned now with destabilization in the afternoon along that warm front boundary. There's a lot of shear in this environment, and the atmosphere looks to destabilize with that warm front. The temperatures are going to surge, and the dew points surge into the upper 60s in the afternoon time frame. And in fact, they did an upgrade this afternoon to a slight risk for severe storms. It could include some larger hail, isolated tornadoes, maybe a couple tornadoes. I wouldn't be surprised this actually gets upgraded to enhanced as we get deeper into the morning time frame tomorrow. But there is a window there. There's definitely appears to be a window of that 2 to 6 o'clock time frame. If you live anywhere within the North Texas region with that warm front coming in, is when those dew points hit 68, that's really going to be increasing the low level moisture, destabilizing the atmosphere. We got a lot of shear in this type environment. That's going to cause supercells, surface-based supercells forming, and that's when we could be looking at some larger hail producers, some damaging wind producers, and some couple tornadoes could be unfolding in that type of atmosphere from that 2 to 6 o'clock time frame. But going into Monday, it's all about the heat. So you got that surge coming in from the south. You've got widespread, could be looking at 10 record high temperatures across the deep south into Florida, much of Louisiana, further south into South Texas, places like into Central Texas, talking places like into Austin, maybe San Antonio. We're talking mid 90s, folks. I mean, we're going to be hitting 90, if not more, into the Dallas-Fort Worth area, low 90s. The only game in town where the cool era continues is further north, back into Montana, back in the Dakotas. They had a pretty good snowstorm. If in fact that blizzard unfolded across portions of the Dakotas, adding to those totals in Minnesota. So the cold continues well to the north, up there into the Pacific Northwest. Well below average temperatures really continue for them. But we're going to be looking at a boundary further south, and another significant event looks to unfold across a good part of the same areas that unfortunately got hit yesterday. So as we go into Tuesday, the dynamics really rapidly change, folks. The water vapor surges, those dew points surge again, all the way pulling up those well above average temperatures down here in the Gulf of Mexico. Look at that surge on the water vapor index. That again surges all the way as far north as southern portions of Wisconsin, puts in this entire sector into the warm sector and very moist, destabilized atmosphere. There's your dew points surging all the way from the low 70s down to the deep south of Texas and Louisiana, through the Arklatex, through North Texas and East Texas, getting into Oklahoma City, Missouri, back into Illinois again, Western Tennessee, and those temperatures will probably reach as far north as portions of southern Wisconsin, even into portions of Michigan. That puts all these areas in play for more severe storms, especially with this very intense trough that comes in. Look at this low pressure, this low level jet turns negatively tilted. And when it does, it screams across the northern plains. It's going to have a lot of lift to this. The jet streak's going to be screaming at over 100 knots. It's insane with this powerful low pressure center down in the 970, upper 970 range. Very intense winds going to be cranking on the northwest side. We could be yet another blizzard unfolding across the Dakotas and parts of Minnesota again. But further south, the atmosphere rapidly destabilizes again, and a ton of shear looks to unfold in these regions, and very concerned to be another widespread, severe, if not major tornado outbreak again headed into Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday night time frame. So let's break this thing down for you, because there's a lot more CAPE involved with this one. The energy is a little bit more intense, and some of the areas, some data actually looks to potentially be worse than what unfolded yesterday. It's hard to imagine, but there's a lot of dynamics here, guys. I mean, this is a lot of dynamics really coming together and saying, hey, we got to be on high alert for another possible big event that unfolds, widespread multi-state event across multiple regions. So here's the latest update from the Storm Prediction Center. They did in fact have an enhanced risk. Day four enhanced risk for a lot of the same areas. You're talking places in the Des Moines area, Cedar Rapids, down into Davenport, into Pekin, Some of these areas that definitely got hit hard last night: St. Louis, the entire state of Missouri here, back into portions of, getting far south as the Fort Smith area. I know Little Rock got hit hard last night, but yeah, that slight risk extends as far south as the far northern portions of northeast Texas, back into portions of northwestern Mississippi, and a lot of same areas, right? A lot of same areas. So this is a day 4. This is definitely a day 4. But what's concerning is when you look at the Colorado State learning guidance compared to the Storm Prediction Center, it's a scary look, guys. There's, again, it looks to be 2 modes of severe storms. Again, a northern side and a southern side, and a lot of the same areas, northwestern portions of Illinois, southeastern portions of Iowa, and then that southern mode back into portions of Arkansas. A screaming jet coming across these, again, movement, 60, possibly 70 miles an hour. We had that straight line wind event that came through Chicago last night, include some 90, if not upwards to 100-mile-per-hour winds at times. It was a very intense night. So we'll watch this unfold over the next couple of days, but I would not be surprised if they upgrade this to another probably moderate risk, and another high risk potential is definitely not off the table with all the dynamics that looks to unfold in the next couple of days. So we'll definitely fine tune this as the days get closer, but definitely be on high alert as we get into that Tuesday time frame because of this deepening low level jet. Massive low pressure center really rapidly deepens, probably bottoming out around the upper 970 range. To the northwest side of there, isobars really start to tighten up. Very intense winds, blizzard-like conditions happening across the Dakotas, back into portions of Minnesota. More snow on the northern side of Wisconsin. But it's all about the severe storms as we head further south. But that low pressure center just kind of sits and spins for a while, for an extended period of time, and keeps those winds just cranking in those regions. Yeah, we're talking April 4th, April time frame, but hey, we're talking blizzard. The conditions, really say, hey, we could be looking at a significant blizzard unfold across a good part of the Dakotas into portions of Minnesota, and further south. We'll have to be concerned about those severe storms. But look at the next 5 days snow output. Yeah, as that low pressure really starts to rapidly deepen, we could be looking at 1 foot or 2 feet of snow in a good part of the Dakotas, but especially into central and northern portions of Minnesota. Can't roll out another foot of snow for them. Central to northern portions of Wisconsin. So this is going to be an intense system. At the same time, we're going to have to deal with widespread tornadoes further south. So Tuesday is going to be a very intense day, and that goes into Wednesday, pushing off into portions of the southeast. And that by the time you wake up on Thursday morning, that low pressure center will be still trying to wind itself down, lifting back up into Canada by then. But then we'll be looking at a damaging squall line that'll be coming across with more intense winds as this races across. Look at that boundary there. That's your freezing line. So anywhere northwest of there, coming up on that Thursday, April the 6th time frame, will be below freezing for this time of year. So we are going to have what they call an Easter spell coming up, because Easter is coming up and this upcoming weekend on the 9th here. So we are going to go over that. So let's take a look at that, right? So it's not a significant cold outbreak by any stretch of the imagination, but we are going to be looking at some cooler than average temperatures, and sometimes they call that an Easter spell. At least grandma said don't plant until after Easter, and some of you take that guidance verbatim. We are going to be cooling down further south, no question about it, but a lot of that's going to be dealing with that cold front that's going to be stalling in this region, causing an overrunning setup, because that cold front that's just going to be sitting and spinning, laying there, that's going to cause the rain, clouds, and with that cloud cover, that's why you have those below average temperatures within that, after that 6th time frame, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, going into the 10th. That window there, that 5-day period, is going to be below average for a good part of the country. But most of the reasoning for that is going to be the cloud cover and the rain that's going to unfold across this region. So what's going to happen is that cold front sags south, right? And then it kind of stalls. I mean, it's not allowed to go any further south in April, right? So it's just going to stall there, taking advantage of those warmer temperatures back here into the Gulf of Mexico, causing those overrunning setups. We got a more active subtropical jet stream out there in the Pacific because the La Nina's gone bye-bye now. So now that sets a different dynamics as this comes across, and we could be looking at very intense heavy rain and could be some flooding rain trailing across this boundary. So definitely concern some of these water content values are looking at 200 to 300% above normal in an April timeframe, when you typically get a pretty good high rain content in these areas. So you're talking above average from that. And so yes, we could be looking at some flooding, and I'm expecting some flood watches to be posted by the end of the week coming up next week along these regions across the portions, a good part of the deep south. But if you play in the following, those 5 days from the 6th to the 10th, there's that boundary. So this is the area of concern, pulling in 200, 300, probably 400%. So it's a combination of not just that Friday, it's a combination of extended multiple days across this region. We could be looking at some really intense heavy rainfall, and in some of these areas could leave in those next 5 days of 6, 8, maybe even upwards to 10 inches of rainfall, especially further along the coast here, as that cold front just kind of sits there for several days to come. So that is definitely the concern going forward by the end of next week. So I appreciate you guys watching. Definitely stay with me. I'll definitely be updating and fine-tuning this, potentially another major event that could unfold across a good part of the country coming up on Tuesday. So catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.